But I think going forward, we have to think of something else. So, so I thought, as I was saying before, I've got this powerful plan to save America. Oh, it's awesome. I believe it is awesome. But who am I? Maybe I'm not right. I don't know. So let's find out. Let's just find out what my plan is. Now, before I say it, I'm going to use an acronym. And the acronym I'm going to use so that you can remember it better, I call it SING. Because, of course, that is what I do. I sing. So I just thought it was kind of interesting to bring out this plan. But here is the plan. SING. See individuals, not groups. See individuals, not groups. You see, a lot of these Democrats, or I should say leftist Democrats, they've always thought of using group identity to take control. It's easier for them to divide people up into groups and use those groups against the population. That's what they want to do. They want to take the population and they want to use that population, that particular group, call it a protected group, and say, the rest of the people are beating up on these people. And that's what they do. In other words, it's the victim card. And, we all know about this. We know what they do. But, people have to be told that really doesn't even follow, believe it or not, that whole tribalistic concept. Even though people can be tribal, we know that. But really, ultimately, when you get down to brass tacks, it doesn't really fit human nature, or I should say the better angels of our nature, and it doesn't really work as well on our ego. If you can get to an individual's ego, and if you can teach them to have an individualistic framework, and I don't mean selfish, I don't mean it that way, because believe me, the leftists are selfish, but they just use the concept of group identity to control everything, and to control people, and to create victims. So, trust me, they really are individualistic at their heart, and that's what I'm getting at. But I think to understand it, you have to get them to understand that what we're looking for people to do is think more on an individual level, not just individual benefit, but individual responsibility. That's what people need to be taught. It's very important that we do that, So, and like I was saying, so we have to think more on treating others as individuals on both sides. This works both ways. It really does. You can't do it without thinking of it both ways. And I'll give you an example. The example is I know that many people in the black community, not all, but many in the black community, will look at white people and they will make a generalization about white people. Well, white people don't care about black people. Obviously, that's a generalization that doesn't have a basis in reality for all white people. Are there some racists among white people? Sure there are. Sure. But most white people will look at us as individuals. They will look at everyone else as an individual. And so in other words, your skin color, your ethnicity matters very little. There's no real importance to that. You're an individual. Do you treat me with respect? If you treat me with respect and you care about me as a person, then I'm going to care about you. It's very similar to the golden rule. The golden rule says what? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Simple as that. And that's the way we need to look at people. So, of course, if you look on the other side of the coin, you have many white people who say of black people, well, they don't care about us. They are, in many cases, they'll say, well, they're violent, or they're this, or they're that. Now, yes, there are some that are. There are some angry people in the black community, and they may have a point. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying that those people have an anger about them. Some of them let it get the best of them. They don't really have control over that because they've been taught by certain groups, they've been taught to hate all of their life. They haven't been taught to live by the golden rule, to live by individual responsibility. And yet, many people will go and watch the movie Spider-Man. You ever seen Spider-Man? I've seen it. I love Spider-Man. Well, what does Peter Parker's uncle say to him? He says to him, with great power comes great responsibility. Think about it. That is true. If you don't have, an individual responsibility for your bad behavior, you can really, especially someone of power, can create a lot of problems. You can hurt and kill a lot of people that way. And we see this, and I gotta mention it because, again, I want everybody to know that obviously that police officer that killed that poor guy, he did wrong. That police officer was in the wrong 100%. He is now in jail, and justice will come to this gentleman. This guy should not have done what he did. Simple as that. So it's coming. But that's just that to me is just, it kind of underscores the concept of not understanding that police officers have a great degree of power. They have a great degree of, authority, I should say, in that regard. But again, if you let it go to your head, if you don't take responsibility for that, what's going to happen to you? You are going to do things like what happened. You're going to do things that are going to cause somebody to get hurt or die. And that's why. So again, I don't want to make this one-sided to try to tell one particular group of people, well, you better straighten up and, don't do any violence and this and that. Look, we know what we're not supposed to be doing. We have a conscience. We have God's Spirit telling us what we should be doing and should not be doing. So, and I don't care if that has nothing to do with skin color, has nothing to do with it. Every human being has within them the capacity to listen to the Spirit of God. If they don't do it, they are individually responsible, not as a group. And so we have to understand something, that when you start getting into group identity, what you're doing is you're not only worshiping the group, which is idolatry, by the way. It's idolatry. You don't worship the group. But you're also cheating each member of that group of their identity. You're cheating them of their identity because they no longer can say, well, I am this person, I am special because of this or this or this. I'm black or I'm white. That's what I am. Well, let me ask you something. Here's a question for you. When you go and look in the mirror, what's the first thing you think? Do you look at your individual identity? Or do you look at your skin color and say, well, I'm white, or I'm black, or I'm Asian? I mean, what do? I don't. That's not what I think when I look in the mirror. Of course, at my age, I start thinking when I look in the mirror, man, I'm getting old. That's what I think, but that's different. But still, it still underscores my individuality. I am getting old. I am starting to get older. And so it has nothing to do with some kind of a group identity, unless you want to say that I'm grouped in with old people now. But, so we do have tribalism. That's undeniable. We do identify with certain groups. My heritage is, I have a lot of different, backgrounds, but the predominant one, I should say I have a plurality of Italian as my background. But like I said, that's not something daily on my mind. I don't wake up in the morning and say, great day coming today. I'm an awesome Italian. Yeah, I'm going to go out there and say, yo, what's up over there? No, I don't do that. I don't think like that. So I think especially as Americans, if you think about who we are, when we say the expression e pluribus unum, what is it? From many, one. We all became one. So it's a very interesting juxtaposition that we are many, obviously, many millions, but we are also one. We're one group. So when you get people who try to break up into different groups. That's not a good thing. We're supposed to be e pluribus unum, not unum, unum e pluribus. Okay, that's not the way this was designed. We're not supposed to break apart. We're supposed to stay together as one. And one thing that we come together on in America is freedom. And what does freedom give us? Freedom gives us our ability to be individuals. I want you to just think about that for a minute. Freedom gives us the ability to be individuals. You don't get that when you start breaking people up into groups. Because here's what happens. You get people who say, well, okay, I'm black, or I'm a woman, and obviously if a woman's a woman, she knows she's a woman. You don't have to. But again, you break these people up into groups. I'm a woman, and therefore I get. And here's what happens. When you start doing that, you start protecting those groups. You start saying, well, this is what's special about them. And guess what? Then we start giving them special privilege. So wouldn't you rather have the American concept of e pluribus, okay, e pluribus, plural, everybody, unum, one. We're joining together, one. We become one, okay? And that way, as individuals, as one, we all share the same rights. And that's what's important. People don't understand that we've got a situation now where it's just funny how people, when you break people up into groups, they begin to think, well, I'm protected, so you can't say a certain thing about me or to me. I get a special privilege that you don't get. And that's not a right. And so when these people say rights, when they say that they have a right to something, but you don't, that's really not a right. That's a privilege. Just like, for instance, driving or being a member of the military. None of those things are not rights because you have to have a certain proficiency for many reasons. In the Army and the military, of course, it's because you have to be able to do physically certain things that maybe an older person can't do. Because you're fighting in a war, you have to be able to defend people properly. That's a safety issue. Same way with anything else, driving. When you drive, if you can't pass a driver's test, you're putting a lot of people in danger, and so you don't really deserve the right to be getting into a car and driving around putting everybody's lives at risk. So there is a difference there. That is a privilege, not a right. But now we get into because someone is a certain thing. That doesn't work. Just because you are a woman, or just because you are, in the black community, or just because you are Hispanic, or you are a member of LGBT, doesn't matter. Nobody deserves special privilege for those designations. We all share the same rights, and we all should share them all. That's what it is. That's why we have law enforcement, to protect each individual's liberties. But it's getting into, we're getting into factions, and I never liked this whole breaking up into groups thing. Yes, we obviously belong to certain groups. We do. But that doesn't mean that it pervades our consciousness. It doesn't pervade our consciousness, guys. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. And I don't like it. I don't like how we do this. I think it's a very bad thing. I really do. I think we need to come together. And we should remember e pluribus unum, from the many, from the plural, from many we become one. Why can't we live that way? Why is it so difficult for us to do this? And it's because there is a group of leaders who don't want us to come together. They don't want togetherness. They don't want that congealing of power, of oneness. Because once we all come together and understand that we are bound together by our liberties, our individual liberties, and we're all free to be who we are, we're free. You can say, I'm free to be me. We're not, you're not free to be in one particular group, and I'm in this group and I get special privilege and you don't, because I can make stuff up that, you hurt me because somebody's ancestors hurt my ancestors 400 years ago. That means you owe me something. And that's, to me, that you're never going to win that argument, because in the end, even if you win, you think you won, but you're breeding resentment. You're breeding some terrible concepts. So we have to get away from that. We have to do this. Sing. See individuals, not groups. Say it with me, everybody. See individuals, not groups. It's very critical. It's very important. I can't even believe people don't understand that. And with that, I'll be right back after this message. Hey guys, are you still shopping at those same big online stores? Well, I say no more. It's time for you to go over to the Michaelantonio shop and pick up some great gear at incredible prices. And remember something, I really care. Do you think Jeff Bezos would take the time to talk to you? I say no way. So don't forget, michaelantonio.biz/shop. You will not regret it. Ciao. And we're back. I am back. So yeah, I think it's important. It's a simple idea, I know, but this is what I want you to do. I want you to, when you talk to your friends, I don't care who it is, whether it's someone who agrees with your ideology or someone who does not agree with your ideology, I would like you to speak to them on this regard. And you can even use my little video, my little, visual aid here. Use it. Sing. See individuals, not groups. I don't like the concept of grouping people together, this tribalism. That doesn't mean you have to have the same ideals. Remember this. There used to be an old expression that doesn't seem to work in this country anymore. And it was this. Remember this one? I may not agree with you, but I will fight to the death. And I'm sorry, let me say that right. I may not agree with you, but I will defend to the very death your right to believe it. Okay, so it's not, people don't do that. And now you've got such an intolerant group of people that it's like they're just, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to make sure that you don't have those rights either. I don't like it, so you can't have it. And that's what's happening today. It's horrible. This is not America. This is not American values, And, you saw it all come to a head about 10 years, or more than 10 years ago when Obama stood up and proclaimed, I am going to fundamentally transform America. Now, when you say that, what do you mean? What he meant was he didn't want freedom. He wanted a new socialist utopia. We know that based on his prior associations. We knew that based on the people who mentored him. They were socialists and communists. These people didn't want American freedom. They didn't want what America was intended to be. Okay? They wanted to control this country. So I'm pleading with everybody. Let's start talking to people and kind of sharing our love for them as individuals. So when you look at somebody in the eye, tell them, I don't want to talk about race. I don't want to talk about the color of your skin. So if you keep bringing it up, I'm going to ignore that. I want to talk about you, the person. What are you doing right now? How are you doing? What are you involved in? Where do you work? Whatever. Just get into a conversation about their life. Find out about who they are. This is what I do a lot. I like to talk to people because I am genuinely concerned and curious about people's lives and what they're doing in their life. And you'd be amazed when you start talking to people about their life and not getting into necessarily the whole concept of whatever's going on in the day. And look, I understand all these things are important to talk about, and I talk about them all the time. But sometimes you have to kind of take a break and ask somebody, how are you doing? How is your life? What are your hobbies and interests? What do you like to do? Maybe, it's funny, you might even share interests with these people that don't agree with you ideologically. You might share interests with them in other areas that you never thought you would even begin to agree with on. But it happens. So, and once you start talking about a person's individual life, what happens is, and if you're doing it in a way that's genuinely curious and caring and loving, that you're not trying to give him, you're not trying to, get him trapped in some thought process, like a gotcha question. You're just saying, I want to know about your life a little bit here. Let's talk. So this is what I want you to do when you talk to people. And if you do want to get into the political discussion, talk about this. See individuals, not groups, and teach them. Teach them, because a lot of people that don't understand this, they don't know what's going on here. They always identify, some people have always identified themselves as, I'm a woman, hear me roar. I'm black. I mean, really, this is what they've been taught, that's how they have to identify themselves. And they think it's a good way because, we're coming together. We are, fighting the good fight of faith. And I understand those things, but I'm telling you that ultimately it's a bad thing, because the people who are teaching them this stuff, they're not interested really in helping those people. They're interested in consolidating their own power. Because what they do is when they get that group all fomented up and, joined together, what do they tell them? They tell us, vote for me. Go ahead and vote for me and I'll make you better. I will help you and your people. And what happens is that these people, they don't care. And so these people have ended up in the same problems for decades. They haven't been helped. Nobody cares. Let's be honest. I think about these riots that are going on right now, and I think back, I wasn't around at this time, but I know that a short time later I was, and I remember hearing about it. In I believe it was 65, they had the Watts riots. That was a racial riot. Then we had, of course, in the 90s, we had the LA riots once again because of Rodney King, that situation. And now here we are again. But only this time it's worse because it's all over the country. It isn't just in an isolated area. So here we have all these situations. Have we grown as a nation? Have we really grown? No. Because what do we got? What do we have going on over here? Here's what we got going on. We have this going on. They are seeing groups instead of individuals, okay? This is what we need to see. This is what we don't need to keep focusing on. Look, we already know that people are in certain groups. They're grouped a certain way. It's a nomenclature. It's a way to designate somebody in certain circumstances, But it's like, we have what's called binomial nomenclature for living things. Okay, we classify things according to a certain nature, Something's a particular species, then you have genus, that type of thing. You have the family, and then is it order, class, you go up the line, phylum, kingdom. So you have all these different classifications for living things, but you don't have, what does that really mean? I mean, for scientific purposes it has meaning, but ultimately when you go and pick up a puppy at the store, you buy a puppy from somewhere, or just rescue a dog, that's your pet. You don't think about the binomial nomenclature, do you? Do you walk around saying that's a canis, whatever? You know what I'm saying? You don't think, you don't think about that. It's just your puppy dog. It's your, it's Spot or whatever you name your dog, So this is what we need to understand, that although we do have certain groupings and designations, there are, white people who are women. So you got white women, right? White men, black women, black men, Asian women, and you have, white gay man, whatever. I mean, you have all these designations, but ultimately, we're human beings, and we have certain interests, and some of those interests are similar to other people, so we can designate a million different ways, but ultimately it doesn't mean anything. What's important is our individual liberties. And when we start dividing down groups, I think it's a terrible thing. So let's keep it simple here. Just tell people, this is the way to save America. When you look at somebody, look at their individuality. Don't look at their color. Don't look at anything but the person. Ask them their name. If you're going to talk to somebody, say, what is your name? If you don't know. And let them talk to you as a person. What are your interests? What do you like to do? Does it matter that you happen to be white or happen to be black? No. It's not. It's really not that important. There's not a whole lot you can gain from trying to divide people up into groups. There's just not. And Of course, the beauty of it is there are going to be some people that do not like you based on your groupings. That's just the way it is. You're never going to get everybody to like you, but the beauty of it is you are an individual and you have individual liberties to avoid that person. You don't have to have that person in your life. You can avoid them if they don't like you. And they can avoid you because they don't like you. So it's that's the beauty of it. It's really a no-lose situation. It's a win-win. Because you can't, when you start grouping people up and they start fighting each other, that's a lose-lose. You're never going to win with that. Never going to win. Because it turns people ugly. People begin to, they begin to tribalize, and it lasts sometimes for centuries. And that's no good. So I think I've said enough in that regard, but I would like to direct you to a page. I've done this before on the site, but I'd like to direct you to another page. I did show you the social media delinquent and, of course, the Red Right and You. Please do not hesitate to go to those sites on Facebook. Also, in addition to that, there is another site that I'm kind of proud of it because I want people to understand something. Right now we're going through a lot of turmoil in this country. A crap ton of turmoil. And it's time to get along a little bit. So, let me get rid of this for a second here. There's there's a page there's actually a group that I started in Facebook called Peace Conference. Now, Peace Conference here is a page that is designed for people to maybe start healing their relationships, some of the bad things that have been happening between people. A lot, of course, now based on politics, mainly. That's what's been happening. So, here's what I was thinking. I was thinking that we could do a little experiment. But it has a good ending to it. And I think this is important. So please understand this. I've talked about this before. But I think it's important that you understand what I'm talking about here. So I will read it to you, what I had written about this, and I think it's good. This gathering of rational adults was born to bring an end to the prideful animosity among all of us who allow disagreements to destroy our relationships. And as I'm saying this, I want you to think about that friend that was a close friend, that was a fun friend, that now won't talk to you, or you won't talk to them because of a political difference of opinion. I want you to think about them. I want you to think about them even after this. After I'm done on the video here, when you're done watching this, think about that person, and I want you to meditate on them for a while, for as long as you can. Okay? Because, if we don't have our friends, what do we have? It's very tough in this world. Okay, so we will never agree on everything, but that is the price we pay for our freedom of thought. Let's not pay the unnecessary greater price of broken friendships and families. You understand that? Let's not do that. Okay? So, here is your mission. Your mission is to invite a friend you have been fighting and post a comment praising the things you love about that person. And I want you to tag your friend in that post if they're still your friend on Facebook. Obviously, if they're not, there's not much you can do except tell maybe another friend to direct them to it, because I think it's important. So remember, just write something nice about that friend that you had a fight with. Just one thing, at least one thing, maybe more, but at least one thing you really like about that person. Maybe it's the thing that drew you to them as a friend. Because everybody has that friend that they give you a certain feeling, you became friends with them because of, the type of person they were, or something that they did for you, or whatever it may be. I want you to say at least one good thing about them, okay? So will you take the first step to invite your friends and loved ones to this group and begin the healing? I really believe in healing, guys. I do. I don't understand. Look, I understand the difference of opinion. I'm not going to change the way I think politically because I believe that it is a good way, or I should say the best way to believe. I believe that it leads us to the greatest resolution. Okay, that's my thoughts. But you know what? I still love those that I disagree with. I care about them, and I think about them. I think about the people that have been cut off from my life through this whole ordeal in the last few years here. And it hurts me. It does. I mean, I think we all are hurt to some degree by these people. Now, certain people, you know what, were probably happy that they're not there because they were just such insufferable monsters before we even had a problem with them in political regards. But, this is what happens. This is what happens in life. So please, don't hesitate to go to the Peace Conference page. It's, facebook.com/ groups/peace.purpose. Peace.purpose. And, some people, maybe you're not comfortable doing it, that's fine, but at least think. At least I want you to meditate on that person. And maybe, what's funny? Here's something that I'm gonna get a little bit, I'm gonna wax a little spiritual on you guys right now. I'm gonna do a little spiritual thought process here. Because I've known this to be true. Have you ever been thinking about somebody and wanting to call them, and then just as you're thinking about them and wanting to call them, they call you? Have you ever had that happen? I actually had that happen last week. And it happens occasionally with me. So remember something. There is a connection. We're connected by, what I would call a spiritual fabric, a spiritual net, framework. And what happens is that sometimes those things can connect if we meditate on them long enough. So what I want you to do is I want you, if you're missing somebody, look, if you're not missing them, I understand. Maybe it's not time yet. Maybe that time is a few years away even. I don't know. But remember, we're not promised a tomorrow, so maybe sometimes it's better to kind of not wait. But I would say tonight, if you have the time, which you do before bed probably, you're going to bed, it's not like you don't have time, I want you to just meditate on that person for a few minutes and think deeply about them and about your friendship and all the good times you had. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about calling them. If you're afraid to call them, don't call them then. Don't even call them. I just want you to think about calling them. Just think about it. And if you do this and something happens from it, and you get what I would call a supernatural experience, whether it be the person calls you or they come to your doorstep, I want you to contact me. I want you to make a comment anywhere you can, wherever you can find me, and let me know that happened. Because you know what? I'm about reconciliation. I'm about bringing about a peace. Even though I have strong disagreements with people. I don't like what I'm seeing in America right now. I don't. I would wish, if I had my druthers, if I had my choice as to whether I wanted to see this stuff happening right now, I don't want any of it to be happening. I want peace. I want to live in brotherhood with my fellow Americans and my fellow citizens of the world. I want everyone to get along, even if you disagree. I want people to be peaceful with each other. That's what I desire the greatest. That's my greatest desire. So, with that in mind, please, I want you to do this little thought exercise with me. I want you tonight, in fact, I'm going to do this tonight, before bed. I want you to think of that person that you've been separated from, whether it be a former partner, whether it be a business associate, whether it be a friend, a relative, maybe even your own mother or father, who knows, or your son, your daughter, niece, nephew, you name it. I want you to think on that person for at least 5 or 10 minutes and not just think about them. Again, think of the good times you had with them. Think about maybe some of the emotionally good times too, and just maybe something that they've done nice for you or something you did nice for them. But I also want you to take it a step further. Just as I had said, I want you to think about calling them. Don't call them. Just think about it. And just say to myself, I'm going to call them. I want you to hold your phone. I want you to grab a hold of your phone, okay? And I want you to make that, don't make the call, but just hold your phone, hold up the phone, and just think about calling them. Just sit there and just hold the phone to your ear and say, I want to call them. I want to talk to them. I want to hear from them. And do that for a few minutes. I know it sounds crazy, but remember, we're not doing this in public. I don't want you to go in public and do this stuff. Do it privately in your own little secret closet, or in your, in bed, or in your bedroom alone where nobody's around. Just do that for me. Just engage in that experiment and see what happens. Now, nothing may happen, but at the very least, you're thinking about them. You're starting to understand that, you know what, there are more important things than having fights and hating each other over a disagreement. Now look, the disagreement itself is important. We have to have our principles. We have to have our values. You can't separate yourself from that. But you can still love the people that you don't agree with. Simple as that. And that's what I think we need to do. So, just try that little thought experiment with me. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but you know what? I think it will for many, because it works for me. And I think it's important that we reconcile ourselves, even if we can't agree. And look, you're not going to get everybody to do it. There are people that are just so, their hearts are so darkened with hate that it may never come back to them, or it may take them a very long time to understand that, you know what, reconciliation has to come, because you can't walk around life being bitter about people like that. You got to try to let go, and it's tough. I'm not going to deny that it's very tough. I mean, I'm the first person to say that's very hard. You know, I'm a very emotional person. I'm very sensitive, and it's tough. It's even tough for me. So I don't want to tell you that, oh, it's so easy, just go ahead and do it and you're going to be great. No, it doesn't work out that way all the time. So, well, enough about that. Let me go ahead and just, I'll be back after this message, and then we'll wrap it up.
Hey guys, if you want more great content from me, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Come on, what are you waiting for?